Hello, everybody. How are you today? Well, we have one more week of online classes. Okay, for this class, before we get into anything else, I have to give a privacy notification, okay, which reads, a partir de este momento iniciamos la grabación de la sesión de clases en Zoom. El uso de este video será única y exclusivamente para fines académicos. Ninguna persona puede usar las imágenes, audio o información que aquí se comparte con fines ajenos a la clase. Los derechos son propiedad del Instituto Oriente AC. Este espacio se rige bajo las normas del Manual de Convivencia del Colegio. Okay, well, that's an aviso de privacidad that is necessary to give for each and every session, starting this week, of course. Well, as I said, we're going to have new grammar, okay, which is in Unit 8, I believe. I told you this last week, okay? So let's jump right into it. So for this first part of the grammar, which is going to be for this week, we have, let's see, we have passive voice. Now, I say that this is the first part which will be given this week because we actually have two parts of grammar for this unit. Okay, the first being the one that is shown on the screen, passive voice. Okay, the other one I will talk about and try to explain as best as I can next week. Okay, with another presentation and other exercises to practice with. Okay, so for passive voice, which is what we're going to focus on this week, we have first the use of passive voice. We have to understand what we are talking about when somebody says passive voice. Now, we use passive voice to emphasize the action, okay? To emphasize, to concentrate on the action, to focus on the action, okay? The subject in passive voice, remember the subject is typically the first part of the sentence, okay? The subject in passive voice does not do the action, okay? So that's what we have to remember. In passive voice, the important thing is that we focus on the action and the subject is not the author of the action, okay? The subject in passive voice is not the person who does the action. That is the difference between passive and active voice. That is the principal difference, okay? But let's go into detail. For the concept of passive voice, we have to understand first what the opposite means, what active voice is. And after we understand active voice, we can understand better passive voice because it is the opposite. Now, in active voice, okay, we're always going to start the structure with a subject. Okay, the subject, that's the initial part of the structure in our sentence. Sometimes you're going to see maybe a prepositional phrase or some other phrase, it can be any phrase, before the subject, but that is actually something that was modified, and we can say that it is not its original place. Okay, so the original place of the subject, typically, most cases, and I would even venture to say always, is the first place of our sentence, the subject, the person. Then we have the verb, a regular verb, a normal verb, okay? Nothing special about this verb. We can have the verb in present, present continuous, simple past, maybe present perfect, future, etc. And after the verb, we have the complement. So we have the subject plus the verb plus the complement. Okay? For example, when we say the student visits pyramids. Okay, that is the structure that we use for normal sentences, for everyday sentences. There's nothing quite special about this sentence. Okay, it's just something regular. Okay, it's your run-of-the-mill sentence. In this case, the subject is the person, the agent who does the action. Okay, in the sentence we have the student visits pyramids. If we make the question this for visits, we make the question who visits, who is doing this visitation? Well, we have the student. The student is the person who does the action. This is active voice. This is the regular sentence that we have, and I think we all understand that. Okay? Now, passive voice is, as I said before, or as I like to call it, the opposite of active voice, okay? Not an exact opposite, as in you have to say everything that's different from active voice, but in the structure, we have a different structure, and it seems to be backwards. It seems to be only, okay? So that's why we're gonna call it the opposite. Now, in passive voice, we're gonna have a subject, okay? Just like with any other sentence, but the subject is a little bit different, and I'll show you why. We have a verb after the subject, which is in passive form, okay? And then we have the complement. In the complement, we're going to have the person, the agent, who does the action of the verb, okay? It's backwards. It's not normal, okay? It's the other way around. For example, when we say pyramids are visited by the student, okay? So to compare it with active voice, we can take a look at the subject, pyramids, and make the question, do the pyramids visit? Do the pyramids visit? And we say, no, the pyramids don't visit, okay? In passive voice, the subject doesn't do the action. In passive voice, the subject receives the action, okay? The subject in passive voice is affected by the action, by the verb. The person who does the action in passive voice is actually part of the complement. So why do we do that? Why do we put the author of the action in the complement? And that is simple to answer. In passive voice, we always focus on, concentrate on, emphasize the action and the object affected by the action, okay? In passive voice, we don't care about the agent who does the action, okay? We don't care about the person who does the action. So in this case, pyramids are visited. That is important. By the student, well, we're not gonna pay attention to that. That's not going to be important for us. In the structure, okay, I said that we're going to use a verb in passive form. Now, what do I mean by passive form? In passive form, we are always going to use the verb be. For example, when we say is, am, are, if you have past, was, were, okay, that's the verb be. And after that, we're going to use a verb in past participle. Now, this verb in past participle is the action that is happening. This is the action that affects the subject. Okay, this is the main verb. For example, when we say Big Ben is cleaned, okay, we have the verb be, is, and then we have the verb in past participle, cleaned. Big Ben, remember the Elizabeth Tower, Big Ben is cleaned. Or we can say many statues are built. Okay, we have the verb be are, and then built, past participle. Easter Island was discovered. The verb be is was, and then we have past participle discovered, was discovered. Okay, we're still using the structure. We're always going to use this structure. Last example, we have the pyramids were destroyed. Were destroyed. Okay, the verb for the verb be we have were, and then for the past participle we have destroyed. Okay, were destroyed. The pyramids were destroyed. Now, as I said before in the other slides, okay, if somebody makes the question who, okay, who cleans Big Ben? Who builds many statues? Who discovered Easter Island? Who destroyed the pyramids? For passive voice, when we make the question who is doing these actions? In passive voice, we don't care. Okay, in passive voice, that's not important. Okay, who cleans? Who cares? Who builds? Who cares? Who discovered? For this case, we don't care. We're not going to pay attention to that. And who destroys? Well, that's not part of our agenda, so we're going to talk about something different. Passive voice. Keep that always in mind. The important part in passive voice is the action and the object affected by the action. Okay, now for the other part that I mentioned, after the verb be in passive voice, we use past participle. Okay, for past participle, we have regular verbs. Regular verbs that, well, are pretty simple to remember and to formulate. These regular verbs are going to use ed for a past participle form. Okay, we have a very extensive list of these regular verbs, and I would even venture to say that these are the majority of the verbs that we have in English. So take a look at the first one. We have cook, and then the past participle, cooked. We have ed, that's easy, that's simple. Discover, discovered. Again, ed. Clean, cleaned. Okay, we have those two letters at the end of our word once more. Then check, checked. Okay, we're still using that regular form. Move, moved. Okay, look at all of these verbs, and I only put 5 for my examples, but as I said, we have a very extensive list, and I would even venture to say the majority of the verbs are regular. For the past participle form, they use ed. The problem comes when we have to use a verb that is irregular. And I say it's a problem because if you're not very familiar with these irregular verbs, you're going to have a difficult time using the past participle form of these verbs. In my list, okay, I am showing you some of the most typical verbs that we use in everyday speech, communication, and discourse. Okay, so that you can take a look at those and see the difference between regular and irregular. Okay, in irregular verbs, we don't have a specific form, we don't have a rule, we don't really know how to make the irregular form. It's all a matter of memorization. We have to memorize these verbs. Okay, so that's going to take a lot of brain power, a lot of practice, okay, to perfectly remember these forms. There is no way around it. Okay, so for example, when we say eats, what's the past participle form? We say, well, eaten. How do you know? I don't really know how, but that is the form. You just have to remember, eat, eaten, take, taken, build, built, see, seen, tell, told. These verbs are different from each other. Some of them can be similar. For example, eaten, taken, seen. They can be similar, but not all of the irregular verbs are going to have en at the end. That is only for some of them. And for others, we have t. For others, we have a change in the vowel. For example, with tell, told, or in the case of t, build, built. Okay, so this is the headache that we have to endure. Okay, we have to practice to memorize these irregular verbs. Okay, with all of that in mind, let's put our new knowledge into practice. Okay, as I said, we're going to use for passive form the verb be. In this case, the instructions tell us to complete the sentences and use only is or are, and then after that, the correct form of the verb in parentheses. Now, remember, in passive voice, that verb is going to be in past participle form. Okay, after the verb be. So take a look at number one. The Galapagos Islands, blank, for their unique variety of animal and plant species. Okay, in the blank, we have to use is or are. Okay, the Galapagos Islands. Islands is the principal word. It's actually the true subject of our sentence. So we say islands. That's in plural, so we have to use are. And then past participle, we have known, are known. That is the past participle form of know. It is irregular. In number two, we have the Forbidden City, blank, with beautiful paintings and artifacts. So the Forbidden City, that is singular. We have to use is. And then Phil, well, thank God for this. Phil is regular. Okay, so that's easy. Number three, the Taj Mahal. Okay, the Taj Mahal, blank of marble. We have to fill in that blank. Okay, the Taj Mahal is singular. Okay, it's only one place, and the name even is in singular, so we use is, and then past participle. Made. Made is the past participle form of make. It is irregular. In number four, we have the walls of the Taj Mahal, blank with many floral designs. Okay, in this case, they are trying to confuse us because here we're not talking about the Taj Mahal. No, that is extra information. We are talking about the walls. Okay, so the walls of the Taj Mahal. The real part that we have to focus on, as I said, is the walls. Okay, the walls is going to be the real subject, the true subject of our sentence. So the walls is plural. We have to use are. Okay, we use are and then past participle form of the next verb, the past participle form, which for decorate, since it is regular, we're going to say that the answer is decorated. So we have the walls of the Taj Mahal are decorated. Are decorated. Number five, the inside walls of St. Basil's Cathedral, blank, every few years. Okay, again, this is something that is trying to confuse us, trying to draw our attention away from the true subject, but we know that the true subject is, well, the walls. We're talking about the walls. Inside is extra information. It is a characteristic of the walls, okay? And then St. Basil's Cathedral, of St. Basil's Cathedral, that is more information about the walls, okay? Of the characteristics of where they are or what they belong to. We're talking about the walls. So the walls are, as we said with the previous sentence, the walls are painted. We have a regular verb. The walls are painted every few years. Number six, the Sydney Opera House, blank in Australia. Sydney Opera House, that is pretty simple. That doesn't seem to be confusing. We're talking about only one place, okay? It is singular, so we're going to say is, and then for locate, we're going to use the past participle. And because it is regular, it's easy. The Sydney Opera House is located in Australia. That seemed to be kind of easy. Okay, that was practice for the structure. Now we have practice for the concept. Okay, the concept. We have to decide if these sentences are in active voice or passive voice. Okay, before we get to it, remember, in active voice, the subject, okay, the subject is the person who does the action. Okay, remember that. In active voice, the person does the action. Okay, this is a regular sentence and the verb is not affecting the subject. No, the subject is doing the action. The subject is doing the verb. This is active voice. And remember that in passive voice, we have the verb affected by the subject, okay? In passive voice, the subject doesn't do the action. Remember that. In passive voice, the subject doesn't do the action. So for number one, we have the Great Wall of China is visited by millions of tourists each year. Okay, so we have the Great Wall of China, and then the verb is visited. We have to make the question, who? Okay, who visits? The Great Wall of China visits? No. Okay, the Great Wall of China doesn't visit. The Great Wall of China is visited. Okay, so let's see, where is the person that is doing the action? Is the person doing the action, let's see, in the subject? No, it's actually in the complement. We're talking about millions, okay? Millions of tourists, but millions visit the Great Wall of China. So this is not a normal sentence, okay? This is a little, we can say that it's kind of backwards. So in this case, we have passive voice. Number two, Augustus Pugin designed London's Elizabeth Tower. Augustus Pugin designed London's Elizabeth Tower. Okay, we have the verb designed. Who designs? Who is designing? Who did the design of the Elizabeth Tower? Okay, we have Augustus Pugin. The subject is doing the action. Is that what is happening? Yes. So in this case, we have active voice. This is the normal, the regular sentence that we use, that we typically use on a daily basis and all the time, at every moment. Number three, 200,000 workers constructed the Forbidden City. Constructed. Who constructed? Who constructed? Well, we have workers. 200,000 workers constructed. The subject is doing the action, isn't it? Yes, it is. So this is a normal sentence. We have active voice. In number four, the city of Petra was made a new wonder of the world by millions of voters. Take a look at the verb. The city of Petra was made. Who made a new wonder? Okay, who made a new wonder? Did the city of Petra make a new wonder? No. Okay, in this case, the subject is not doing the action. Okay, the person or the agent that is doing the action is right here, millions. of voters, but millions made a new wonder, made the city of Petra a new wonder. Okay, so in this case, we have passive voice. The subject of the sentence, the city of Petra, is not doing the action. Passive voice. Okay, in number 5, the Sydney Opera House was opened to the public in 1973. Is this active or passive voice? It is passive voice. Why? Because the Sydney Opera House didn't open anything. No, a different person opened the Sydney Opera House. Somebody that we don't know of or that we don't read about in the sentence opened the Sydney Opera House back in 1973. Okay, he or she opened it to the public, but the Sydney Opera House, the subject of the sentence, is not the person who is doing the action. No, the Sydney Opera House is affected by the action. Okay, another way that we can distinguish if what we have is active voice or passive voice is looking at the verb. Okay, with the structure, we can always tell by the structure. In sentence number 1, we have is visited. We have the verb be and past participle. That's passive voice. In number 2, we have for the verb designed. Okay, we look at the verb and we say that's not a verb in passive form. We don't have the verb be. And remember, if you don't have the verb be, you don't have passive voice. Number 3, we have, for number 3, we have constructed, okay? The verb, again, the verb doesn't have the verb be. It's not passive voice. It is a normal sentence. Number 4, was made. The city of Petra was made. Okay, so we have the verb be, yes, we have was, and then past participle, the verb made. Was made. That is a verb in passive form. We have verb be in past participle. Number 5, we have was opened. The Sydney Opera House was opened. We have the verb be, was, and then a verb in past participle. Opened, was opened. So this is passive voice because we have a verb in passive form. All right, so much for that. That's all the practice that we have for today. Remember this when you do the exercises that you have to do on the platform, on the Servo Escolar platform. Okay, keep this in mind when doing those exercises. If something looks confusing, please watch this video again and again until you have the answer to your question. If that doesn't help, on Friday, remember that you can make the question directly at the beginning of our session, at the beginning of our Zoom session that we will have on the 8th, I believe it is, this Friday, okay, this very Friday. And well, that seems to be it. Anything else, I'm at your disposal, I'm at your service, and that's all for now. Have a nice week, and we'll see you on Friday.